Energy healing tends to spark curiosity or raise eyebrows. Some people hear about it and think, ooh, that sounds fascinating. Others assume it's a little too out there. But the cool part is, once they experience it, people really get it. Can energy work really repair broken relationships? Could it help an anxious pet? Can it resolve issues that have persisted for years? Today, we're diving into real life stories that showcase the surprising power of energy healing and why it might be exactly what you've been looking for. Hello, my friend. I'm so happy you're here for our dive into How Woo Woo is Too Woo for You, Part 2. Last week, we laid the foundation in Part 1, so if you haven't heard that episode yet, I'd recommend checking it out. Don't worry though, you can listen to this episode first and then go back to Part 1, or you can pause this and listen to Part 1 first. Either way works, but together, both episodes will give you a more complete picture. So today we're going to explore how this simple yet powerful work actually unfolds in real life. I'm starting with a story today, so get comfy. This story perfectly captures the simplicity and the power of energy healing. Many years ago, our family had a cat that we loved. We're kind of a cat family, so we've always had cats that we love. But this one was a beautiful, fluffy gray cat. And one evening, she had a litter of kittens in our garage. And we were all aware of it. The kids were in bed, but I made sure her and the kitties were comfy before I went to bed. And then the next morning, I got up and left really early to get to the city park because it was a very exciting day. It was World Tai Chi Day, and I'd organized a local event downtown. But back to the story. So when I got home about noon, my husband came outside as I was driving into our driveway, and he quickly comes up to the window of my car and says, "Honey, you have got to work on Mama Cat." Her name was Rufio, but we're just going to refer to her as Mama Cat in this story. And I said, "Why, what's going on? Is she okay?" And right then he turned and pointed to her as she was holding one of her kittens by the scruff of his neck and walking out into the middle of our cul-de-sac. And we watched her drop the kitten and then go back to the garage to nurse her other 4 kittens who were wondering where Mama went, probably. My husband told me that this had been going on for the last hour, probably more. She dropped this particular kitten in the middle of the street. This poor little kitty, his eyes weren't even open yet, and she would leave him there. And then my husband wasn't sure what to do. He couldn't leave him in the street, so he would gently get this poor little kitty and take him back to Mama. And he said, I talked to her. I asked her to please feed him too. So as we took this hungry and probably confused little kitty back to the safety of our garage, my hubby told me the rest of the story. The 2 little girls, our 4-year-old and her 3-year-old best friend from across the street, were just enchanted by these kitties, as you can imagine. And although they were told not to touch or pick them up yet because they were just born last night, when Dad stepped away for a few minutes, these girls picked up this particular kitten to cuddle and pet and snuggle with. So then when they put him back down by Mama, she immediately got up and took him to the street, and that back and forth pattern began. So now I understood why my husband ran out to the car and said, "You got to work on Mama Cat." So I checked in energetically with both Mama Cat and kitten. Mama had negative energy toward this kitty. That was obvious. Was it from the little girls holding him for a while and getting their human scent on him? I'm not sure. I've heard that's not really a thing with cats, but nevertheless, Mama let me work on her energy and calm her down and clear the connection, the energetic connection with this kitten. And of course, the baby kitty had feelings of abandonment and rejection and sadness. And I know those are human words, but the emotions, whether it's people or animals, feel the same to me. So the little kitty let me work on him to release those two. My husband tried once again to get this little kitty snuggled in with his mama, and this time, almost immediately, she welcomed him back. As soon as I had done the work, she started licking his head and letting him eat alongside the others. The connection was restored that quickly. And yes, we did pay extra close attention to them going forward to make sure baby kitty didn't get put out in the middle of the street again. And he never did. From that time on, Mama Cat treated him like all the other kittens. What's fun about this story is how it demonstrates the natural intelligence of energy. The shift in Mama Cat's behavior wasn't random. The fact that she was now willing to give him love and that he would receive it was a response to the energy clearing between them. You might be thinking, oh, cool cat story, but does it work like that with humans? My answer is yes, at least in my work. In fact, I've seen incredible transformations in human relationships using these same principles. Whether it's tension between spouses or disconnection between parents and teens, or even workplace conflicts, clearing the energetic clutter between people can create remarkable shifts in how they relate to each other. I call it clearing the energetic relationship. The energy people have toward each other sometimes gets cluttered with emotions, misperceptions, judgments, hurt feelings, etc. When we clear our own energy and our side of any relationship dynamic, it often creates space for the entire connection to shift. It's like repairing your side of a bridge, and suddenly the whole crossing becomes easier for everyone. How about that? As Wayne Dyer used to say, change the way you look at the world, and the world you look at changes. Or, what if we tried change the way you look at a person, and the person you look at changes? I mean, if they're a decent person and someone who's in your orbit, what if you decide to start seeing their good qualities? Well, then that's the type of energy you're sending towards them. It helps you feel better, it helps them, even if it's all nonverbal. Of course, humans tend to have many more layers of complexity than animals do. We overthink, analyze, and sometimes resist the natural healing process. Animals don't seem to have as many insecurities as humans do. They just respond to the energy shift without questioning it. I find that people aren't as concerned with understanding exactly how energy healing works. They just want to feel better. While I don't claim to know all the mechanics behind these shifts, I can share what I've observed about how our energy systems respond to this work. Just like our bodies have physical systems, we have a circulatory system, respiratory, nervous system, muscular system, skeletal system, and so many others. And we also have energy systems that are working constantly and communicating together. In my Simply Aligned training, I teach the 7 main energy systems, among a lot of other things, but there are 3 that are pretty well known and then 4 lesser known ones. The 3 you've probably heard of are aura, chakras, and meridians. So your aura is the layers of energy surrounding your body, acting as both a protective shield and a reflection of your current emotional and physical state. The chakras are the 7 main energy centers in your body, running from the base of your spine to the crown of your head, and each one is associated with different physical and emotional aspects. And then the meridians are the main energy pathways that run through your body. They affect how energy flows to your organs and systems. These meridians form the basis of the Chinese acupuncture system. While understanding these energy systems provides a foundation, they're just one aspect of the work I do. Every session is as unique as the person I'm working with. Your energy has its own intelligence and its own priorities. Sometimes we might focus more on clearing chakras or other energy systems, sometimes on generational patterns, other times on relationships or connections. Or I love doing timeline work to clean up experiences from your past, from your childhood. There's so much more, but a session usually flows between all of these and more in one session because most of the time they're all interrelated anyway. It all depends on what your energy needs in that moment. Your energy knows exactly what needs attention and in what order. I don't know that when I work on someone, so I just follow the flow. I just listen and speak the language of the energy and use intuition and muscle testing. And sometimes we can't address one emotional block until we clear something else first. It's like trying to untangle a delicate necklace chain. You have to work with the outer knots before you can reach the ones at the center. Everybody's energy has a different way of unwinding. Often someone has a session and they want to work on one specific thing that's a challenge for them. But bonus, they end up clearing a lot of other issues as well because the energy needs to unwind in other places before it can get to what they thought they showed up to work on. So I'm sure you've heard the analogy of a radio being tuned to different stations, broadcasting at various frequencies. We also tune to emotional frequencies. Some stations play uplifting music that energizes you, while others might broadcast negative news that drains your energy. According to physics, everything has a natural resonant frequency, meaning it vibrates at a specific hertz or cycle per second, depending on its size and shape and composition. So, this includes all objects and materials like your desk, your clothes, your emotions, colors, thoughts, everything, including us, of course. When an external force matches an object's natural frequency, the vibrations significantly amplify, creating a resonance effect, like tuning forks. When you strike one tuning fork and then you place it near another one of the same frequency, the second one will begin to vibrate too. It's very cool. Without even being touched, the other one begins to vibrate. This is why certain people, places, or situations can either drain us or energize us. It's all about frequency resonance. So we know everything has a frequency. And this brings me to one of my favorite ways to explain energy frequencies, the concept of living above the line. If you imagine a horizontal line, and above this line are the faster moving high vibration frequencies like love, joy, peace, contentment, gratitude, forgiveness, and there's many, many more. And then below the line are the heavier, more sluggish frequencies that make us feel uncomfortable, uneasy, stuck. That's fear, doubt, shame, guilt, confusion, grief, etc., etc. These heavier emotions literally weigh us down. They can become the issues in our tissues. When we're in this vibration, we can feel physically heavy and sluggish. And of course, this is just a simplified way of explaining how emotions have vibrations. The light and uplifting emotions, joy, peace, gratitude, hope, contentment, serenity, awe, relief, confidence, optimism, love, enthusiasm. I mean, it feels better just saying the happy ones than it does saying the below the line emotions. These lift us up and keep us above the line, and that's where we naturally thrive. So, yes, our goal is to do what we can to live above the line, but it's really okay if we occasionally sink below it while experiencing one or more of the heavy emotions. After all, that's part of this life's experience. We're not meant to only live above the line, but yes, life is much more pleasant when we proactively do what we can to live on the upside. Sometimes we carry heavy emotions temporarily while we're going through some tough stuff. And sometimes those emotions get stuck in our tissues and our energy and our mind, and they stay for years and years. By following the energy, you can find the cause of the negative emotion and release it at its root. You don't have to remember, or at least with simply a line, you don't have to remember the event or relive what happened. Often the energy just needs a witness. The negative emotions we carry can be from situations we're currently experiencing or can be stored and stagnating from years of layering those sluggish emotions without fully releasing and letting them go. That sounds heavy, doesn't it? The good news is we don't have to carry them. There are ways to get to the root and clean it up, even if we don't know the exact emotions or where they came from or that they were still even lurking there. Seeing that visual with the higher vibrating emotions and above the line and the lower vibrating emotions beneath the line, it really sticks with us and helps us to be able to move from one heavy thought to a lighter thought, which helps us feel better through our entire body. Life gives us experiences on both sides of this line. That's part of being human. We get the opportunities to experience all these emotions. And this is where energy alignment comes in beautifully. Think of it as clearing away those heavy emotions that pull us down. When we release that weight, our natural state is to float back up above the line, just like a balloon naturally wants to float upward. The light within us feels best when we spend our time in those above the line frequencies. That's where we're most alive, and that's where we are our most authentic selves. And I believe it's because our spirits feel at home in higher vibrations. People often try to complicate the simplicity of energy work. I often think of Leonardo da Vinci's famous quote, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." And that's exactly what I've found with this work. The simpler, the more intuitive approach often yields the most profound results. I remember one class I took in San Diego many years ago. It was a 3-day healing course that was so over the top complicated. We were all given a workbook with detailed charts and graphs and complex protocols to follow, and they had to be followed exactly. I'm really grateful for this experience, though, and I remember thinking that at the time as well. It was fascinating to see and experience how other people approach this type of work. The guy who taught the class was great, and all the people were so nice, but the process itself was intense. We'd break into groups where 4 or 5 students would gather around another student lying on a massage table, and for 90 minutes to 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours, all 4 of us would be trying to follow this incredibly precise and rigid methodology. It was super complicated, at least for me, and cumbersome and time consuming. But hey, on a positive note, there were lots of students who were totally into it. They'd say things like, "Ah, this is class number 7 for me," or "I'm on class 12," or even, "This is my 16th class." Like they wore it like a badge. They loved it. Yeah, for real. I felt bad for the people taking turns on the massage tables, though, because they had to be very patient. It took a long time to get just a few things aligned. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not putting this system or others down. There are many wonderful healing modalities out there. I'm simply saying that to balance and align energy systems and get to the root of a problem, it doesn't need to be that complicated or time consuming. The energy actually wants to help you. It's seeking balance naturally. And I know the methods people choose ties into their personal preference and their personality. So I know that plays a part as well. I like things simple. When I work on someone, I can never predict, nor would I ever want to predict, where the session will go. Energy is naturally intelligent. It knows exactly what needs attention first. I simply lean in and pay attention and feel where the energy leads without adding in unnecessary rules for how it has to be done or how it should be done. Do you remember Captain Barbossa from Pirates of the Caribbean? Well, I embrace his philosophy. They're more like guidelines than actual rules. When we get too caught up in doing things just right, we often create more obstacles than solutions. We start doubting ourselves, wondering if we're doing it correctly, when really energy work is about tuning in and trusting our intuition while having a solid foundation of understanding. And you know what? This feels like a great time for one more cat story because, well, animals show us so clearly how energy healing works. My sister's cat Midnight had developed an anxious habit of chewing and pulling out his belly fur. Now, this poor little guy had had a rough life. They had recently rescued him. Their daughter had him for a while, and then she had saved him from some other people. And so he'd kind of moved around a lot. We think he might have been abused in his first home. So he had a lot going on, poor guy. So my sister asked if my work might help him. And yeah, so I did a remote session. That just means I worked on him energetically while he was at his house and I was at my house. And I just followed where the energy led, clearing fears and anxiety patterns. And within a couple days, I heard back from my sister and she said, "Oh, by the way, the nervous chewing has stopped completely. He's not even chewing on his belly fur anymore." And then a few weeks later, his fur had grown back and he never did return to that anxious behavior because we had cleared the emotions behind it. What I love about working with animals is that they have no preconceptions about energy healing. They don't overthink it or wonder if it's going to work. Their systems just respond naturally to the energy shifts. There's something beautifully pure about that. So you can see that sometimes the transformations in energy work are immediate, like with the mama cat who instantly welcomed her kitten back once the energy was cleared. But other times the shifts seem more gradual, like with my sister's cat Midnight, whose fur grew back over a few weeks. This gradual healing happens because our physical bodies are denser forms of energy, so they often need time to catch up after the energetic shift has occurred. The energy pattern changes immediately, but the physical manifestation follows at its own pace. I always tell people I don't diagnose anything physically on animals or on people. I don't diagnose. That's not my wheelhouse at all. All I'm doing is diving underneath and seeing where the energy is cluttered. And I just try to clean that up as well as I can so that your body can do what it was created to do, which is heal itself. So, a comment I get at the end of sessions often is, okay, so now what? I feel so much lighter right now, but how will I know if this is working long term? And I say, you'll notice it in how you feel and how you respond to life. Your life will reveal it. And I always tell them to look for evidence that it's working. Because sometimes things are subtle and they're out of your life, so you don't really notice so much anymore. And then you forget to take note of, hey, oh yeah, we worked on that. I do that with myself sometimes. I'll clear something for myself, and then I just go on with my life and it's gone, it's out of my life. And then later I'll remember, oh yeah, I cleared that. I forgot that used to bother me and it doesn't anymore. So that's how it works for everybody. It can be immediately noticeable or it can work very subtly. And often you won't notice the changes until you're in that same situation that used to throw you off balance. Sometimes the biggest changes are the ones that you don't notice right away. So think of an out of tune piano. Every time something used to trigger an old emotional pattern, it was like hearing someone strike a key that was out of tune. And it produced this jarring, discordant note again and again, but not on the piano, in your nervous system. But after releasing emotions about it, you might find yourself in a situation that used to drive you crazy, and nothing happens. You feel at ease, maybe even peaceful. Let's say you're at a family gathering with your difficult but well-meaning mother-in-law, or in a meeting with that challenging coworker, and the time passes without any tension or reaction. Side note, I feel I should tell you my mother-in-law is in heaven, so I wasn't saying anything negative about my mother-in-law. I loved her. So you may not even recognize the shift when it happens because the discomfort is simply gone. It doesn't even get your attention. It's only later you might think, wait a minute, I felt totally fine in that situation. What happened to all the tension? That's because the piano has been tuned. There's nothing left to trigger that old response. The energy that was creating that disharmony has been cleared, allowing a new, harmonious tune to play instead. And this is how healing manifests. It's not as a dramatic moment, but just the peaceful absence of what used to cause you distress. And simultaneously, there's a beautiful addition. There's more hope, more confidence, a stronger belief in your own abilities. It's both the letting go of what was weighing you down and the natural rising up of your authentic, empowered self. Because when something is released, it doesn't leave a void. Your innate light naturally fills in the space that was being taken up by the lower vibrations. And more light attracts more light. So it's a win-win. So here's my invitation for you this week. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Check in with yourself during the day to notice what emotion you're experiencing and whether it's above or below the line, that imaginary line. The goal, of course, is to stay above the line by keeping or shifting your thoughts to a positive state. So just even having this awareness will help raise your vibration. Hey, if this episode got you curious about energy healing, but you're not sure where to start, I've got something you might like. I created a free 5-day email series that will help you take the next step in your energy healing journey with clarity. It's called Energy Healing for Real People, a 5-day confidence boost for your gifts. Sign up at simplyalign.com/boost. And if you have heard part 1 and part 2 and you think, I think I have some gifts, or even if you don't think you have some gifts, but you think you'd like to develop some, because anybody can do this work. If you want to dive deeper, my Simply Aligned training is coming up. It's a 4-day live event. It's on Zoom with me, where I'll teach you the exact method I've used for years. I've taught thousands of people this method. You can check it out at simplyalign.com/certify, CERTIFY. All right, my friend, keep reaching for those above the line feelings and notice when you're not there. That awareness alone is the beginning of transformation. You got this.